Hello there, welcome along. I'm Jeff Davis here from Pivotal Edge AI. Thank you very much for joining. We're going to go through on this webinar how to land your dream job with AI using LLMs, things like ChatGPT, Anthropic's Claude, Google Gemini, and so on. How to use all of those great tools to be able to land a fantastic job, improve your CV, prep for interviews, all of those kind of great things. Now, this is part of our series, which is Practical Gen AI in 30 minutes or less. These tools are so powerful, so easy to use that it is definitely possible to be able to pick up all of these great tips and techniques within 30 minutes or less, really to empower you to be able to use all of this stuff in your everyday lives. So welcome along. We've got lots of people joining on this Teams webinar and also on our other streams as well as I look across to my other screen. And also this will be live on YouTube in the next week or so. So if you're watching later on YouTube, welcome along as well. So if you've got any questions, do ask away. I will see those come up on my screen in the chat, and I'll try to answer any of those. If I don't manage to answer them during the session, then I will come back to you afterwards. And again, if you're watching this on YouTube, please do drop any questions you may have into the comments, and we'll respond to those as well. So let's get started. Just a bit of an introduction, some terms and some housekeeping and things as well. So firstly, I'm going to talk about LLMs. You're going to see me using ChatGPT today for no other reason than it's a good tool. But all of these LLMs, whichever one is your favorite, go ahead and use it. It's pretty much the same. They're all built on the same kind of technology behind the scenes, so that all the techniques you see me using today will work equally well on Microsoft Copilot, on Claude, Google Gemini, and so on. I'm not going to get into the arms race that is large language models, which one's better than the others. They're all about the same. And do you know what? Even if I said today that this one is better than that one, by the time the end of next week comes around, next month, if you're watching this on YouTube on catch up, then it'll definitely will have changed. They are progressing very, very quickly, and something that never ceases to amaze me is how within a matter of weeks or months the capabilities have moved on again, which is really quite impressive. So what you're going to see today, I can promise you within a few months it will get even better for sure. So that's what with the LLMs. The second point there about being safe and secure, really think about what you're putting into a large language model. Simplest way to think of this is that unless you know otherwise, to consider that to be public. So in the context of what we're talking about today, we're going to be looking at CVs and job searching. The very obvious one here is don't just upload your CV, or if you're a recruiter or a hiring manager, upload someone else's CV into a large language model that's got all their personal details on. Simple thing to do. Take those details off and put it on there. There's a whole load of reasons behind that. The personal information could end up in what's called the training data. So this is how the large language model providers use this to train the system to get better. All of that goes into the mix, and you don't really want people's personally identifiable data going into that. You don't want your own clearly as well. And if you are a recruiter, hiring manager, make sure you know what your company's policy is on using large language models to make sure you're using perhaps an approved tool, that all the privacy and data security requirements and things behind that have been understood as well. You don't want to find yourself getting in trouble with HR for going off putting people's CVs through Copilot or ChatGPT when you weren't supposed to do that. Anyway, there we go. A couple of bits of housekeeping to go through. First, so this is a real simple agenda. I'm going to get out of the PowerPoint slides in just a second and show you hands-on the tools, right? Because that's the bit you really want to see. How do you actually do this? This is what I'm all about, is practical use of AI in today's world. So this is three things we're going to cover for you here, which is about how to identify the right role and planning a career. And this is using your CV or a candidate CV as the base point, and identifying what is a good suitability for that role and what that person could do. How to review CVs and then polish them for particular types of jobs. And then how to prepare for interviews. And there's some fantastic things that you can do using these tools to help you prepare for an interview as well. So that's what we're going to go through. As I say, 30 minutes or less. I've got about 25 minutes left, so I better get a move on. Let me pause there on the slides, jump across to my web browser. So I'm going to use ChatGPT, as I said, to show you all of these things. what I've got is a sample CV for a software developer. Really doesn't matter whether this is a technology CV, whether you're a lawyer, marketing specialist. It's everything I'm going to show you is exactly the same across all of those kind of things. So this has been anonymized. It's just a sample CV which I've pulled down off the internet, and you can see this person is a mobile app developer. They've got a number of years experience and things. They've got all of their usual stuff you'd expect to see in a CV that's in there. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this CV into ChatGPT. As you can see, it's been anonymized. It's had the person's details taken out as I put in there. So what we're going to do is, first of all, just get the CV reviewed. Now, one of the really, really important things, and this doesn't just apply to job searching, it applies to any use of any large language model. Think about how large language models work, right? They have been trained on this enormous corpus of data. Supposedly every single bit of publicly accessible information, and depending who you ask, it could also be lots of other private information as well, has gone into training these. So this is why ChatGPT could write you a piece of poetry in the style of Shakespeare. This is why Anthropic Claude could produce a song for you in the style of the Beatles. On and on and on goes the examples. And it's because it's been trained on so much information. So the thing to think on here is, what you need to do is imagine that's just like this enormous, great big database full of information it was trained on. You need to direct it to the right part of that knowledge that it's got. And the way we do this is to give it a role. So what I'm going to do is say, you are an expert job coach. So this assigns a role to ChatGPT in this instance, and recruitment specialist. And this helps ChatGPT understand what it's supposed to be doing, because I'm sure, my grandmother would probably have an opinion on jobs, but probably not really going to be very helpful as a career coach for a mobile web developer, for example, and recruitment specialist for tech roles. So you can see I've given it that direction that's in there. If we were, trying to review our CV for legal roles, then clearly we'd put that in there for legal and so on. So you just direct it to be the right in the right direction. Review this CV that I've attached. Now, something else here as well. There's a particular thing that they've noticed, in the researchers have noticed with these large language models, is they tend to want to be kind, and they tend to want to get the right result for the candidate or the person who's using the large language model. So one of the things to add on here as well is be honest in your assessment. And there's all these little tweaks we're all starting to learn about how these large language models work, because otherwise it might just say, well, I'm going to give Jeff the answer I think he wants, and it's his CV, or maybe he knows the person whose CV it is, and then you will just not tell him that your CV is really bad. So put that be honest in your assessment actually does improve the results that you're going to get out of there. So what it's doing is it's going through and reviewing all the text that's in that CV that we've uploaded. Now, large language models, this is an absolute perfect use case for them. They are brilliant at taking information, understanding what's in there, taking sentiment through, and so on. So it's going through, parsing the information, and you can see in here, it's giving advice and things as well. This section is good, but could be enhanced by, and so on. Comprehensive. Get it finished. So recommendations include specific dates. You'll notice on this sample CV, the dates have actually been anonymized. It's on there, so it's picked that up. Expand your personal statement, detail proficiency levels, professional links and certifications, and then give us some nice feedback that's on there. So the first thing, this is the simplest way. If this is your CV and you need to update this, you want to get some feedback, I think for most people, writing your CV is one of the hardest things in the world, because you're writing about yourself. So getting a third party to give you independent feedback is really, really useful. And so it's so simple to be able to do that. And you can see the things that's in there, and it's given some quite detailed feedback, which is on there. So let's say that our software developer now wants to upskill on artificial intelligence. Which software developer wouldn't want to be moving into that area? So how do I move into the area of AI? Help me form a plan, a career development plan based on my experience. I would like, so be specific. Now, this is one of the really key things with tools like ChatGPT. If you ask it very, very generic questions, you expect to get some odd answers. So the more specific you are, the better guidance you can give to the LLM, the better quality output it's going to give you. I would like to develop mobile apps with AI features, probably using APIs. And the reason for doing this is this person, I'm just going to surmise here, is not a data scientist. They don't want to necessarily go into that field of data science and learn all about those kind of things. So what it's going to go and do is put together a plan for us. And you can see the kind of things it's recommending: courses to go and look at, it's recommending books to go and read, different things to learn about AI, specializing in mobile AI integration, and then suggesting to startups and side projects, how to go out and network and get community involvement, what sort of professional certifications would be good, and then where to apply for roles. And you can see it's now giving me a timeline as well as to what I can do. And then I could actually ask that to adjust it, say I want to do this in the next 6 months. If I scroll back up in here, you can see some really, really good stuff that it's put together in here around how to build out and specific technologies to go and look at and all of this kind of stuff as well. Different courses I should go and take, right down to the level and the names of those as well, and what I should do. So it's really, really powerful to be able to do all of this kind of stuff and to be a career coach, which is there for you. So that's the first bit. This is about reviewing a CV, getting recommendations how to improve it, and building out a career plan to go somewhere else. So let me now go to, let's go and find a job. So let's go and look at good old JobServe, celebrating 30 years of the same user interface on their website. You can see I was testing this earlier on. So mobile developer, London, within 50 miles, doesn't really matter. Let's go and do a search and see if we can find any jobs, which is on here. So React Native mobile app developer, iOS developer, and so on. So let's have a look at this job that's on here. Bring this one up on the screen. There it goes. Okay, so what we've got here, iOS developer. And you remember our CV we've got, I think I saw on there as well. Let's just have a quick look. Is Swift is one of the skills as well. So this looks like probably a reasonable fit for this person. So let's take that across. I don't know, let's put this into ChatGPT and find out what actually happens. So review this role and comment on my suitability for it. I can give it the URL and put that into there. And then based on the CV that we've put in, it's now commenting on whether I'm a good fit for that person. And you can see all the bits it's picking out. So your experience as a project manager, and then it's suggesting areas for improvement, which is very good. So you're highly suitable for this role, and so on. Update your CV to include design principles, project links to your portfolio, and all of this kind of stuff as well. So let's get it to do that. Why not? So update my CV for this role, and emphasizing, if I can spell correctly, emphasize my skills that are relevant. Now, really, really key part to add in here, do not make anything up. Now, it goes without saying, right? There's no point lying on a CV. I think everybody probably knows that. People do it all the time, though, as well. The very simple thing is you need to be very careful with something like ChatGPT, because there is a chance it could go, well, you need this skill, and it will just add it in because it won't think otherwise. So you need to make sure you give it the very specific instruction to not make anything up. And there is just no point lying on CVs, right? Because you're just going to get caught out. Maybe you might get through the ATS, maybe you might get through and you manage to get an interview with the hiring manager. You're going to get found out. So there's just no point mucking around with this stuff. So do not make anything up. We don't want it to do that. Optimize my CV for ATS. Whilst that's doing that, let me just explain about the ATS. So applicant tracking systems. many people, recruiters and large companies, are now using applicant tracking systems. I could speak as a hiring manager. I know what happens when you put roles out there. You will get a deluge of CVs that come in, and you've got to go and sort through those. And you get so many CVs that come in that are just not suitable for that role at all. And you're like, why has this person even bothered to apply for it? They clearly haven't read the job spec. They're clearly not suitable for this. It's almost like they just sit there, just clicking apply on job boards and firing their CV off. And it's really, really frustrating. One of the ways that people defend against that is using an ATS, and the applicant tracking system automatically does something similar to what I've just done there. And it looks at the CV and looks at that candidate's suitability for the role, and will then just automatically deprioritize and take people off the list, and then produces a relevant long list. Yeah, and it's really important part of speeding up that whole recruitment process. But it does mean that if your CV is not very well optimized, you could be a good fit for the role, but if you haven't emphasized the right skills and experience in there, the ATS will automatically just delete you from the list. So by doing ATS optimization, what that will do is make sure your CV is going to hit those kind of keywords and be a good match for it. But again, I repeat what I said, don't lie on your CV, don't make stuff up, because you're going to get found out at some point. But there's nothing wrong with making sure you do optimize the skills you do have and the experience you do have to be relevant for that. So you can see it's gone through and it's just rewritten my CV into a suitable format. And what I can do is then I could just copy that straight out of there. I can actually just ask ChatGPT or the LLM to export it as a Word document. I can take it across as well. So it's a really good way to get things done so that you can then make yourself appear further up the list for these kind of roles, how you can tailor your CV to make sure it all fits in there as well. So that's how you do those kind of bits in there. I could also do things like I can go detailed, and I'll just show you something that's really useful to do on large language models as well. Highlight my strength and weaknesses for this role. Think through, step by step, those aspects. Okay, now a couple of things there. So firstly, it's very, very good at being your critical friend, if you like, your strengths and weaknesses. And you saw I just put in there, think through step by step. This is what's known as chain of thought prompting with a large language model. And it is one of the single most powerful things you can do to a prompt to make it work better. Easy way to think of this: if you just put a prompt into a large language model and then it starts writing responses straight out, it's a bit like if you were sat there and wrote an email, wrote a document, and you just wrote it, start at the beginning and finished at the end without thinking ahead about what you're going to do. That's not what you do, is it? You'd think through, what am I trying to say to this person? What am I trying to write in this document? You would think through step by step. So it's reasonable that we should guide the large language models to do that as well. So just putting that into your prompts in ChatGPT or any other tool, think this through step by step, chain of thought prompting as it's called, will dramatically improve. There's been studies that have shown this. It will dramatically improve the quality of the output that you've got in there. So you can see I can get that strengths and weaknesses for that role, strengths for that role as well. So the other thing, it's a final point on this, where I move on to the next section, is have this conversation with ChatGPT, Claude, whatever large language model you're using. It's known as conversational AI for a reason. You should be able to have this chat back and forth. You've said this about, one of my weaknesses that I don't have certifications. What certifications should I have? Just prompt it back and forth and have a conversation as though you were talking to a real human being. So, final thing, let's look at what do we do for interview prep. I'm going to show you another tool here as well. So this is Perplexity. Perplexity has been touted as being the Google killer. It's been touted as being the next search engine. I don't know if it's there yet. It's still got a few curiosities in the way it works, but it shows us what the future of search is going to look like. And so much so that Google's actually created a very similar feature to this with the AI enhancements in there. Didn't go quite so well for them, but it's definitely where this is going to go. Rather than just showing you a list of results, it actually takes the results and then infers meaning from it, as I'm going to show you in just a second. But Perplexity is a brilliant tool for doing research with any kind of research. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put in here, I am applying for, So I can properly applying. If I can actually spell correctly today, applying for a mobile developer role at Google. Help me prepare for the interview with them. So I don't know what Google's interview process is like. I'm going to imagine it's pretty thorough. They're very, very good at hiring people, I'm sure, and they've got a good process they go through. So what Perplexity is good at is pulling all this data together and going through and saying, so to prepare for that, focus on the key areas. And it's actually giving you real information here. Google interviews heavily emphasize problem-solving skills, data structure and algorithms, system design for more experienced candidates. One of the things Perplexity does as well, can you see in here, it actually goes and shows you all the references where it got the information from. One of the things you might have heard about with tools like ChatGPT and large language models is what's known as hallucinations, where it makes things up. A simple way to avoid hallucination is to find the original reference and source where it got the information from. And this is something that Perplexity does very well. You can always ask ChatGPT and tools like that for the references, but you can see in here, it's gone and pulled this from a Reddit, from a subreddit, where someone's, it says good quality information. You can go and read that and everything as well. So coding proficiency, Google specific knowledge. You can see this is a really good way to start to think through. I've got this going on. Mock interviews, time management, you'll have about 45 minutes. This is gold dust information if you were going for an interview at Google. You could probably spend hours and hours searching this kind of stuff around on the internet, looking in Reddit and so on. But you can bring all that together in one place in Perplexity. And then you can go and ask follow-up questions and all of those kind of things as well. Now, I can do something similar in ChatGPT. So what I can do, we'll go back to that job we applied for. Right, let's just say I've got an interview for this role. Help me prepare. What should I do to get ready? I think to give me some really good bits of advice on here. So review the job description. I'm sure the recruiters and the hiring managers on this call will be smiling at this point. The amount of candidates who've gone into interviews having not read the job description. The amount of people I've interviewed over the years where you're sat there listening to this person thinking, do you even know what our company does? Do you even know what the job is that we're hiring for here as well? And you can see it's given some really good information in here. So it's gone through saying, do some company research. We did a bit of that. You saw in Perplexity how we can do that. But also you could ask more generic bits around the company. Everybody knows who Google is, but if it's a smaller company you've never heard of, perhaps, then you could do some research on there. And something like ChatGPT is very good for doing research on companies as well. So it's saying technical presentation, it's pulled up that particular skill for mobile development, which is Swift, to go and look at, be ready to discuss how you apply these principles, be ready to talk about, and you see the way it's giving us specific things to go and talk about. This is one of the really good things, because it's got such a broad range of knowledge. Yeah, it's got all of that stuff that's in there. So final thing I'm going to just put in there as well is, so we've seen that Swift, I've seen that appeared. I've got to say, I don't know what Swift is as a technology, but it's clearly something for mobile development. So let me ask me, 5 questions on Swift. I'll provide the answer. You grade them. And this is one of the great things you can do with tools like ChatGPT. So it can go through, and then what you do is then respond. So I can actually do this another way and go, ask me them one by one. So then it'll ask me that first question. What are optionals in Swift, and how do you safely unwrap them? If anyone knows the answer to this question, put that into the chat, because I've got to say, I don't know. Let's just put, I can't remember. And you see, it will give me a nice little refresher. So this is a really powerful way to help people get ready for interviews. So whether you're the candidate and you're planning for an interview you've got coming up, if you're a recruiter, then absolutely I recommend passing this on to your candidates as a way just to prep yourself, refresh your knowledge, because when we do hiring, there's lots of questions we ask these days, and we're just using that to sound out somebody's knowledge, which is on there. So really great stuff, and it will go through. The 5 questions. You could ask for 10 questions. You could get it to give you 5 questions on the company you're going to go get hired by, and it could ask those questions for you, all sorts of stuff like that. And it's a brilliant way to do all of your interview prep. So there we go. I promised to do this for you in 30 minutes or less. So what we've just gone through, and you can see, is how you can use large language models like ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot, Gemini, whichever one you want to use. They all do the same kind of job to identify suitable roles. And you can see how you can then say, what am I good at? What am I suitable for? And you saw how adding in things like be honest in your assessment and give me that feedback. You really got to direct the large language model to exactly what it is you want it to do, and tell it to be honest with you. Tell it to give you your strengths and weaknesses. How to build out a career plan there, which I think is fantastic. There's probably so many people these days who are looking at how do I get ready for the next job, and think about the kind of things I was showing you there, where I showed you how you could get a job and bring that across. What you could do is if it came back and said, actually, you're probably not ready to take on this role yet, you're lacking experience in all of these areas. Guess what the obvious follow-up question to that is? Great, help me build a career plan so that I can go and apply for that role. Yeah, and maybe that's something that you can do if you're looking to get on in your career, is to go and look on the job boards, find some roles that you think you'd like to be able to do. You like the size of the salary, you like the benefits, you like the company, and think, how do I get to that job? Feed that into your large language model and ask it to give you a career plan that will get you to that kind of level as well. You saw how to review the CV there, how to go through and polish it. I showed you there about chain of thought prompting, really, really important. Think this through step by step. You will get so much better results out of a large language model if you put that chain of thought prompting in that's in there. And be conversational with it. Yeah? When it says to you, one of your weaknesses is XYZ, ask follow-up questions. Why have you said it's that? What should I do about that? And have that conversation back and forth as though you were talking to a normal person. And then we've looked at just there how to prepare for an interview. Really, really powerful, both researching the companies, their recruiting processes, but also just going through and getting it to ask you questions and all of that kind of stuff that's on there. So questions so you can get a refresher, so you can maybe there was a bit of technology or a certification you did some time ago and you want to just kind of get a quick recap on it. It's a brilliant way to do those kind of things as well. So there we go. I've got a detailed blog which will come out very shortly as a follow-up to this. That will have all of those great tips and things in there, so you can read through that, refresh your memory. Feel free to share that with as many people. In fact, please do share that with as many people as you possibly can. Make sure you follow Pivotal Edge AI on LinkedIn and also our YouTube channel. The QR code you can see in the bottom right-hand corner there is for my personal LinkedIn. If you're not connected to me already, I will accept all connection requests and be delighted to receive your connection requests. So thank you so much for all of your time. Any questions you did have, feel free to contact me afterwards and I'll be more than happy to respond to those. And again, if you're watching this on follow-up on YouTube, please do put those questions into the comments and we will respond to every single one of them. Thank you very much.